Cira Pascual Marquina. She's a professor and popular educator with the Pluriversidad Patria Grande. She's active within the El Panal Commune in Caracas and Alexis Vive Patriotic Force. She's the co-author of Venezuela, the Present of Struggle, Voices from the Bolivarian Revolution, and regularly interviews communal activists documenting the communal movement in Venezuela. So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you to all the people who are joining here today and to the Communist Revolutionary Group. It's really remoralizing to see that so many people want to learn and want to fight with us here in Venezuela. And this is indeed a teaching moment. And that's one thing that I want to talk about today, a teaching moment for the left, a teaching moment that US imperialism wanted to turn against the people of Venezuela, but actually, as we will see, and as we have seen already through the thousands of people, hundreds of thousands really, or millions of people who have marched here in Caracas and throughout Venezuela, and also the thousands and thousands of people who have marched around the world, that while this may have been a tactical victory for US imperialism, it will be our strategic victory. But of course, for that, we have to prepare. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to everybody about, to you folks about, is about the lies that they are weaving. Of course, it's already been more than a week, and I can do a very brief account of how I lived it, because, like those first-hand accounts, even though I actually wasn't very close to the places that were attacked. I lived it with a lot of intensity, and that's one of the things that, like we all felt it in our bodies. Everybody who was in Caracas and near sites that were bombed, we all felt it in our bodies. And that's something that led me to reflect, when we think about imperialism, when we think about geopolitics, sometimes we do analyses that are somewhat abstracted. Of course, in the global south, and especially in a country that has been basically under siege for 26 years, there are moments when you really feel the violence of imperialism more directly. And in the global north too, with repression, right now with the reemergence of fascism, the violence, we could say that the chicken comes home to roost. There is the violence that's generally applied in the global south that goes back to the north via fascism. But that night made the intensity, the violence of imperialism felt very strongly by everybody here. If you hear noise in the background, it's because every day, and as we speak right now, there are outside of my window tens of thousands of people marching. Today is a workers' march. And this has been one of the extraordinary things about the most recent days. But as I was saying, the wall that may be built sometimes between what we understand theoretically about imperialism and its violence and the actual violence that we lived on the 3rd of January actually makes you come together as a people. This is what has happened in Venezuela. The people of Venezuela have united in a very robust way. One of the first lies that US imperialism tried to weave is that there were ruptures within the government as the attack happened. There were even some that implied that there might have been treason within the government. And there were also many who implied that there would be ruptures afterwards within the government, between the government and the military, and with the people. What we have seen has been absolutely the opposite. It has been extraordinary. What we have witnessed here in Venezuela has been extraordinary unity between the government, the people, and the armed forces. The first moment in which this lie that had been weaved, we think even from before, because wars have different modes of operation. There's bombs, kidnappings, killings. and all the people who died defending President Maduro. This is very important to highlight, that while militarily for these kinds of actions, US imperialism is superior. There actually was a lot of fighting, and more than 100 people died defending the president, or as civilians who died too. So one of the first lies was that there had been ruptures inside. That lie was dismounted when acting president now, Delcy Rodriguez, came out to speak, and she came on the 3rd accompanied by the high command of the revolution, both political and military. This is the first lie that was dismounted actually by speech, but also by the symbolic way in which Delcy Rodriguez presented herself. She did it in a speech that was very moving to all of us, and that has a phrase that I think will stay with us for good. That we are nobody's colony. Those were the first lies that were dismounted very quickly on that first day. Uh, uh, many comrades went to Miraflores, to the presidential palace in a relatively spontaneous march. Jorge Villalta, who will be talking to me, and many other comrades went on that morning, walking a long way from wherever we were towards Miraflores, which is where Chavistas have historically gathered in support of our government, and of course, in this case, against the violence of imperialism, and in support of Delcy Rodriguez. But the following days have been, every day we have been seeing larger and larger marches. And those marches are the best response to the lies of US imperialism. US imperialism has been saying that Venezuela's revolutionary government, they've been questioning the legitimacy of it. But how can anybody question the legitimacy of a government that only hours after the city was bombed, with the traumatic implications that that has, thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people go out to the streets? I think that's another lie that's being debunked in this context, in this post-attack context. Of course, it's a post-attack context that's still an ongoing war, because, as Destiny well said in the beginning, the Bolivarian Revolution has been facing an all-out war, but with different mechanisms. The people of Venezuela have been facing an all-out war, at the very least, since 2002, with the first coup against President Hugo Chavez, against Comandante Chavez, which was, of course, as it's well known right now, it was also coordinated with the United States and actually with the Spanish state. So this moment that we are living is a moment in which we are able to, while suffering, while we are angry, and we are also tired, because these days have been of a lot of preparation to continue organizing in our communes, to continue. Jorge, for instance, as I'm sure he will say, he's just right now receiving a brigade of comrades from Colombia. So there have been a lot of tasks over these days. They have been days that have been difficult, but at the same time, these have been days that have been extraordinarily, they have filled us with strength, because it is so obvious that the revolution is hegemonic in Venezuela. And not only that the revolution is hegemonic, but that people are willing to make sacrifices for the revolution. Of course, the people who died defending President Maduro made the largest sacrifice, including 32 Cubans, internationalist Cubans, and about just as many Venezuelans who were military who died defending the president as well. But I can tell you something, going out every day to marches that last hours, that is also a sacrifice, but also preparing for the defense of the homeland should another attack come. That, of course, requires sacrifice. So these days, well, they have been difficult, but they have been also remoralizing to see a people that unified behind their government because their government is with the people. And this is fundamental to understand. There's even sectors of the left who have expressed their they have rejected, of course, the attack on Venezuela, but they put ifs on our revolution and our process and our government. That this is so absurd, and I think that any of those sectors who before this attack might have held any doubts about the hegemony and integrity of the Bolivarian Revolution and the unity of the government, the military, and the people, they've been proven absolutely false. There's no greater evidence of how robust and how integrated this project is than to see, as I say right now, thousands of working class people, tens of thousands of workers walking today right now towards Miraflores, again towards the presidential palace. Those were some of the things that I wanted to say. There are many tasks that we have as we go forward. I know that one of the tasks that you folks have given collectively to yourselves is to look towards the future, as to organize, and maybe we'll have a chance to say a little bit about it. But I do want to say one thing, and that's that the genocide in Palestine woke millions and millions of people. But some people still saw it, many of those people actually still saw it as an aberration, were committed to fighting against the genocide, but they saw it as an aberration. They did not understand the genocide in Palestine, the Zionist imperialist genocide in Palestine, as part of the imperialist colonialist logic. Right now, what has happened in Venezuela, I think, is another teaching moment. Again, going back to that teaching moment, the US empire wanted to say to the peoples of the world, beware of sovereignty, beware of preserving your resources, beware of thinking and working towards socialism. And that was the lesson that they wanted to teach us and all the peoples of the world. But I think that if we organize well, we can teach collectively ourselves, rather. We cannot teach them anything, of course. They are our class enemies and our historical enemies. But we can teach ourselves that really our common enemy is imperialism. And actually, as I was saying before, so we have Palestine, the genocide in Palestine, which we through Venezuela can understand that it's not an aberration, but that is part of a logic. But at the same time, we are seeing the importation of the practices of imperialism in the global south to the global north via fascist practices in the US, and I think in the UK too, and in many other countries of the global north. This means that we have a very difficult situation as a working class of the global south, and in general as the working class, but that we have the key elements so that we can build a larger coalition, a larger union, rather. We are not talking about coalition, but we are talking about the union of the working class of the world to really struggle collectively against imperialism. I very much hope that we will be able to do this jump, because we've been so remoralized by not only the marches here, of course, and understanding the coherence of our government in these very difficult times and the coherence of the people going to the streets, but we have also been so remoralized by seeing so many people around the world marching for the sovereignty and for the return of our president, Ancilia. But also, we have to think about how to do a qualitative jump from here. Let's not understand this struggle for the sovereignty of Venezuela and for the return of our elected president and his partner as an isolated act. Let's understand it as a collective project that has to bring all of us together because we have one common enemy. And I think it is important right now for the people of Venezuela. I will stop. I bet I've been talking too much. But it is, I'm sure that we will be victorious. And actually, I'm sure because I've seen it in the streets, and I'm sure also because messages for us here in Venezuela are very important. And as you all well know, the first time that President Maduro was able to communicate with the people of Venezuela via a camera that to his right, he transmitted a message to us that is very powerful. He went like this, the victory sign. He did a puñito, a fist, and then he pointed towards the victory sign. Venceremos. Nosotros venceremos.